everyone, I am Chris and welcome to the Bagmaker's Workroom. Today we're going to talk all about needles and threads. The needles and the threads that we use for bag making can be very different than for quilting or garment making. So we're going to go over all of those different aspects. We're going to put them to the test. But before we get started, I want to welcome you to my workroom. Okay, let's start talking about needles. Now, there are different types of needles for industrial machines versus domestic machines. These top three are for domestic machines. These here are for industrial machines. There are differences in the needles. So, a needle for a domestic machine typically is going to have a flat back. So the back of the shank right here is flat. Okay, you see how that is? So therefore, there's only one way to insert the needle into the machine. When you thread the machine, you're going to thread it from front to back. Needles come in different types. They're different sizes, but they also are labeled, more so than with industrial machines. So for instance, this is an 80-12 and it's considered a Microtex needle by Schmetz. This is also an 80-12 and it's an organ needle. Organ's just another brand of needle. Here we have a Schmetz leather needle and the size is a 110/18. So now let's look at industrial needles. Industrial needles do not have a flat shank. They are totally round. So this part here is totally round. And if you look at them real close, you will see that there is an indentation on one end of the needle. This needle has to be inserted a specific way in the machine. This little indentation right here always needs to go to the right side. When you thread an industrial machine, you're always going to thread it from left to right. It doesn't go forward to back, it goes left to right. So here I have a Bagmaker is a really popular industrial needle company. So I have a size 116. Organ also makes industrial needles. This is a size 110/18. Here's another Bagmaker. This is a 120/19 needle. And then Schmetz also makes industrial needles. This is a 140/22. So I want to show you the difference in the size of the Schmetz needle versus the size of this Bagmaker needle. And the difference is the actual number here. So this is a size 22. And this is a size 16. Let's take a look at the difference in the actual size. Okay, so as you can see, this 22 needle is a lot thicker than this 16 needle. There's a noticeable difference there. You can see the hole, the eye of the needle is larger on the 22. And typically you're going to use the larger needle for heavier duty fabrics. So moving on just for a minute to threads. Thread companies usually give you suggestions as to what size needle to use. For instance, directly from Aurifil's site. Aurifil is an excellent thread, very well-known company. For a 40 weight thread, you want to use an 80-12 Microtex sharp needle. So that's going to be one of these two. Or you could also use a universal or a denim needle. They suggest a 40 or 50 weight in the bobbin. If you are going to be quilting, they suggest using a 90-14 needle and then again a 40 or 50 weight in the bobbin. And then if you're going to be using a long arm machine, which of course that has nothing to do with bag making, they suggest a different size needle and a different weight in the bobbin. So if you go to companies' websites, they will tell you what they think is going to work best with their threads, what size needle is going to work best with their threads. So let's move on to bag making for just a minute, because typically in bag making we're going to use polyester or bonded nylon threads. So for an Amann Strong Bond nylon bonded thread, which is a very good company, again, Amann, A-M-A-N-N. If you use a Tech 70, which is also Tech 69, they use that interchangeably. They suggest an 18 to a 21 needle. So you would basically be using, this is a 16, this is an 18, 19, 22. So you'd be using one of these two needles. If you're going to use a Text 90 size, then they suggest a 19 to 22 needle. So that's going to be either this one or this one. So before you start sewing, I highly suggest that you go to the company's website and take a look and see what they suggest. That's going to be your starting point for determining what size needle you're going to use. You can use lightweight bonded nylon threads in domestic machines. Typically you're going to use a Tex 30 or a Tex 45, something in that area. Amann has a Tex 35, and they suggest using a 12 to 16 needle. So that would be somewhere in here, because this is an 18, that's for leather. So it's a leather needle, but they do not suggest using this leather needle with their threads. So it'd be one of these two. And they say for a Text 45, use anywhere between a 14 and an 18 size. So that would actually be somewhere in between here, which I don't have one. So again, go to the websites, check it out. That will be your starting point for marrying threads with needles. Okay, so let's put these needles aside for just a minute and let's look at some examples, because really when you get down to it, that's what it comes to, is how does it look on your project. So let's start on the domestic side. I took a Tex 27 poly thread and I used the Organ Microtex needle, the Schmetz Microtex needle, and then the leather needle. And I wanted to see how all of those three worked with that thread. I'm going to zoom in and let's take a look and see if we can see a difference here. So to me, they all look pretty close. I don't really see big differences on the front with any of those. And this is just a no-name brand Tex 27 thread. I mean, it's not anything special. Let's look at the back. On the back, I actually think it's pretty close as well. I see a little bit maybe of distortion here on the leather needle, but otherwise I think that the thread really worked well with the needle in all cases. Now, in all my examples, let me also say that I used a faux leather. And that way we were using the same exact medium, the same exact textile for all cases. So now let's go over to an Aurifil thread. Now, before I show you these, Aurifil is an excellent company. They have great threads. It's cotton thread. So let's look at the difference that cotton thread played here. So this is the Microtex 8012 needle for Schmetz. This is the Organ. And look at this leather needle, what this did. It curled it. Now this is a 40 weight Aurifil cotton thread. And I don't know if you can tell, I'm going to bring this up for you and let's see if we can get this to focus. The thread almost looks fuzzy. It does not have a clean finish. Can you see those little fuzzy pieces? Like, there's one right there. So basically what that's telling me is that cotton is not a great solution for bag making and when you're using faux leathers. I think you want to stay away from cotton. I don't really think it matters what kind of needle you use because I see the same result with all three samples here. And I definitely don't like what the leather needle did to it. The backs, I mean, look at how it gathered that. And the tension was the same in all cases. I mean, nothing changed. I didn't do anything different. There you go. So, I will not be using cotton in bag making. It does not marry well with faux leather. And again, doesn't matter on the needle size. So now let's look at the bonded nylon thread, which is usually suggested in bag making. So I have my 8012 Microtex Schmetz needle here. I have the Oregon Microtex needle, and then I have the leather needle. Now this is a much cleaner look. I'm actually very pleased with this. They look very neat. The stitch size all looks good. And then looking at the back, they all look fine. Now, like I said, this is a Tex 35 bonded nylon. Let's look at that versus the Tex 27 poly. And let's see if we can see differences there. And honestly, I don't think it's that different. They're both very clean stitches. Both the front and the back. I used it both in the bobbin and in the top. And I think they both give a very clean stitch. So my suggestion would be some kind of Tex, maybe Tex weight, maybe between 27 and 35 to 40. And just stay away from the cottons. Let's look at this versus the cotton. Can you see the difference there? And again, this doesn't really have anything to do with the Aurifil thread. Aurifil thread's a great thread. So you can't even see the stitch lines back here. It's just the thread is just not right to use with the faux leather. So that was very interesting to me. I actually had fun doing that. I've never gone through that exercise before, and I thought it was very informative. Okay, so now we're going to look at industrial. And I had two different, I always use bonded nylon thread in my industrial machines. So that's all I had. And basically what I have is a Tex 69 or Tex 70. It's really considered about the same thing. And I also have a Tex 90. So we're going to take a look at those two. We're going to take a look at the different needle sizes and see if it's really any different at all. So up here, let's start at the beginning, we have a size 16 needle. Then we have a size 18. Size 19 and size 22. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Let me put these sideways, maybe you can see them a little better. And honestly, I don't see a lot of difference there. And looking at the backs, now the backs, I do see some difference. This is the size right here. This one right here is the size 22 needle. And you can see that it looks like there's a space between the stitches. And that's because the hole is so large that it did not allow these stitches to touch. if we look at the 18, you see there is a little bit of a space, but they're closer. Here's the 16. So 16 compared to 22. This one here is the 22. I mean, it's not huge differences. There's slight differences, and probably most people aren't going to notice. Not minute differences like this. They might notice on the industrial, like the cotton versus the poly or the bonded nylon, but I don't think that they're going to notice differences in needle sizes using the same thread. All right, so now let's look at text 90 thread. So we have size 16, 18, 19, and 22 needle. And again, I don't see a lot of difference between these. I'm going to zoom you in, switch it sideways so you can see them all one time. So this here is the largest needle, this here is the smallest needle on this side. And there's just not that much difference. I'm going to flip them over. And I really think that the back has more differences than the front. Let's look at the size 22, which is this one right here, compared to the size 16. So this is the 22, this is the 16. You just see more space between the stitches, but it's slight. So for the thread that I typically use, which is a Tex 69 or Tex 70, like I said, it's the same thing. They suggest an 18 to a, let's see, they suggest an 18 to a 21 needle. So I'm going to be sticking with my 18 needle. And honestly, I'm really going to be, if I use the Tex 90, I could bump it up to a 19. But in the end, it's just so close. There's not huge differences like what I saw on the domestic side. So these examples really did a lot for me and showed me how some of these differences are very, very slight and probably don't make a huge difference, and others are very large and very big. And really it comes down more to, I think, the thread than the needle size. In this case anyway, it does. So I hope those real life examples help you determine what might be best for you. The best thing to do in any of these situations is to go ahead and do some tests yourself. It's going to depend on the textiles you use, it's going to depend on the thread you use, and then just try to marry the thread with the needle size based on the thread manufacturer's suggestions. If you find that one needle isn't giving you the result you like, try something a little bit different. I typically keep a Microtex needle in my domestic machine, and I usually keep a size 18 needle in my industrial machines. That usually gets me to what I need. So I hope that this helped you. I appreciate you joining me for this episode of the Bagmaker's Workroom. So in the next episode, we're going to talk about handles and straps and that forever pesky twisting strap. We'll get that fixed for you. So until next time, happy sewing.